Hello everyone, and welcome to the session. Before we dive in, a few quick reminders. We are recording the session, so if you miss anything, you will be able to review it later. Please keep your microphones muted during the session, and feel free to type your questions in the chat. We will have a Q&A session at the end, where Vasily will address them. So, Vasily, let's get started.
Yeah, I will add some more people there. So yeah, just 1 second. So yeah, first of all, welcome everyone to the next session. Nice to meet you all, and thank you for all the questions that I got in Discord. So they were a really interesting question, and even the discussion was quite, I think, insightful for some people. So I think this main purpose of the session is to discuss your possible future final thesis, discuss the template, what is expected from this final thesis, and yeah, how to write it properly, what to focus on. So yeah, I think that we can start with that. So regarding the homeworks for this session, I got only one so far. Maybe it is because of the limited time, for the homework. But yeah, the idea was to enrich your previous homework with value capturing analysis. So yeah, let's start from the template, and after that brainstorm the topics and what you will write for the final thesis, and yeah, so how we can move forward with that. So let's start with the template. So yeah, this is a template for a final session, for a final thesis that I expect from you. And yeah, as promised, yeah, GM everyone thing. Yeah, hello guys. So yeah, as I said before, I also will write a final thesis together with you, just to showcase what I think is good final thesis. And I picked up I think one of most important token engineering topics so far. I mean, tokens that are releasing on the market soon, and the Eigenlayer is the leading protocol in TVL. Now it is like $18 billion in TVL, and the restaking process is one of most interesting and emerging and expected in Ethereum ecosystem, and looks like it will be something really big. It is already a really big, but with the token it will be even more fueled up. So this is why I decided to write a final thesis together with you on Eigenlayer token, and you of course are able to make some other descriptions, some other projects, basically what you want with the application of the knowledge that was discussed before. So yeah, this is like a final thesis template, like a title side of it. So it's final thesis of value capturing fundamentals track in T Academy. My final thesis is analysis of value capturing structure of the Eigenlayer native token. I also add a couple of more examples of what possibly could be created as a final thesis. Of course, you can choose something else, and we can discuss it in this session. So this is one of the purposes, is to discuss the possible topics and what you want to explore and what you're interested in. If you don't know what you want to explore, we can discuss what is going on now in token engineering, in field of tokens particularly, and their design and value capturing. And possibly I can provide some ideas for you, some topics that you can dig in and get knowledge, apply all your new skills and so on. So yeah, so as an alternative, I also added the proposal for design of a new token, proposal for design and value capturing structure of XYZ token, the native token of XYZ decentralized protocol. Or, for example, if you don't want to dig into one single token, or if you don't want to create a new token because you don't have any ideas for a new token, or you don't have any protocol that you can use for new token creation, you can just make a very practical application of some value capturing mechanism that you can find in the table. And we also can discuss which mechanisms are probably most interesting to be explored in final thesis. So I added here the work token because it's quite widely used in DP networks. So it means that, for example, you can write a thesis on a very practical application of work token, the BT token, value capturing mechanism, and DP networks, right? So After that, you have some, like a name. You can use a nickname. Of course, you don't need to get all your personal information here. You can just use your nickname or nickname from Discord, from Twitter, whatever you want. So the outline contains 7 points. Of course, if you have some brand new ideas, you can even add some more. Of course, nobody limits your creativity here, so you can make as many points as you want, but here is like something like a minimum requirements or the basic structure that I expect and basic structure that I will follow in my final thesis. So the introduction, the overview of the protocol that you're exploring or protocol that you're building token for, or some protocols that you plan to explore for one value capturing mechanism that you want to explore. So the token description, the value capturing analysis, and valuation approaches. Nobody expects like building a real valuation from you. Of course, the valuation is a complicated process, and even some VCs they struggle to make valuations for some projects and for the governance, because sometimes it's not evident how to do it in a proper way. But anyway, this is just an approach. It's like the fifth point is just your ideas on the top. What ideas you have. Even if these ideas are crazy, it's okay, because we're in emerging field. After that, you have conclusion and references, because so I will show some sample parts of these final theses that I will work on together with you. So as I said before, we have an introduction here. The introduction, this is like some sample. Of course, it's not finalized yet. It's just I wrote it in maybe a couple of minutes. All this template was written maybe in 25 minutes or something like that. So some introduction that what is risk-taking, because I picked EigenLayer, and it's important to provide some background. Regarding the number of pages and slides, let's discuss it a little bit later. So let's go through the template first. Of course, this template will be shared with you today. So let's discuss the amount of information in the final thesis. So so some introduction. For example, in case of EigenLayer, I added some introduction, what is risk-taking, some links, why it's important. It has a lot of TVL, and a lot of people focusing on this right now, building protocols on top and stuff. So what is risk-taking like in particular? So because when you say risk-taking, nobody knows what risk-taking is, so you need to make some reference. Also some other information that is relevant, and so and like conclusion in introduction, that we observe token design and value capture structure of the EigenLayer native token. The next point of the final thesis roadmap is the overview of the protocol, logic, and value creation process. So we are not discussing value capturing. So far, we're discussing just how it works. So the general logic of operation. So you can stake Ethereum to this contract. Even if you want, you can dig like deeper. You can even provide some contract addresses if you understand how it works. But of course, it is not required. So you don't need to really understand the architecture and solidity, how it coded, what are the functions. If you want, it will greatly enrich your thesis and your personal understanding of how something works. But of course, you can write it just on a high level that, okay, there is a contract, you can stake Ethereum. This Ethereum is staked in Ethereum validator, and at the same time, this Ethereum is restaked to some AVS, the automatically validated service. You also need to introduce what it is. So I mentioned it here. So you just put the general logic of the protocol. So, and what agents are participating in the protocol. So in EigenLayer, you stake it in Ethereum. This Ethereum is restaked for some protocol. These protocols work and have this restaked Ethereum as a some skin in the game or collateral for the owner's behavior. For example, there is a new rollup in Ethereum ecosystem, and as we know, current rollups, the majority of them are just multi-sigs, and one day all the funds can be gone from the rollup, right? And since all the state proofing on Ethereum is centralized in majority of rollups so far. So and if this rollup, can have a trust, like some Arbitrum rollup or some really big names, big VCs, or they can have a collateral, the crypto economic security level for the operation. So, and if you have a rollup and Ethereum is staked for a rollup, it means that the amount of funds that are on the rollup are covered by this restricted Ethereum. If this rollup will going to be scam and steal all the funds one day, this restricted Ethereum can be slashed and at least partly used for the recovery of these funds. Of course, it's just a napkin analogy. Things are much more complicated, but anyway, it's a high-level description. So this Ethereum, which is restricted for some protocol, is used as a security deposit for this protocol, that it will behave honestly, that everything will work, and if users will lose the funds or something will work wrong, some of this Ethereum can be slashed and can be can be taken as a penalty and paid for some victims of some misbehavior, for example. So after we discussed all this basic operational logic, we discussed the agents. So we have Ethereum liquidity providers, like users who deposit Ethereum, for example. We have liquid receiving protocols who are built on top of Eigen layer and additionally aggregate all this staked Ethereum, provide liquid staking tokens for some DeFi purposes, and also can manage in which validated services this Ethereum will be staked, for example. Also, protocol that are using Eigen layer, there are also agents that are involved in the ecosystem. So you just need to highlight all the agents and discuss their roles. What is their logic of operation? What they need? For example, Ethereum liquidity providers, they want to get as much income on Ethereum as possible, and at the same time they want to avoid slashing and avoid losing their Ethereum in the process of getting these fees, right? So it's evident. The protocols, they want to attract as much Ethereum for their cryptographic security purposes as possible, but at the same time pay some reasonable price for that, because if this Ethereum is under the risk, it means that the risk should be paid. Somebody should pay for the risk in Eigen layer, right? Nobody will provide Ethereum that can be slashed and alienated from the liquidity provider without any rewards on top of that, right? So any risk should be weighted by rewards. Yeah, so just a basic description of how this works and what is value created as a result of protocol operation. So this is cryptographic security for third-party protocols. Of course, it's not so tangible, so it's real security, but what we can measure fees and rewards for Ethereum risk-takers. We can measure maybe some governance value, but as far as I know, there is no direct governance in Eigen, but anyway, yeah. So, and so on. So here we're discussing how it works, what are the agents, and what is the value that is created in the protocol. The next is a description of the token. So the general description of how token works, how users can use the token, and the main key point here is use case and scenarios. It means that, for example, you can stake token inside some contract, do this or do that, and this or these possible use cases have a different outcomes. For example, if you stake a token in the contract, you receive some fees, but at the same time, you have some risks that your tokens will be slashed. Or, for example, you can do something else. So you just need to put out all the use cases for a token. And if you are building a new token, it's the same, basically. The next is the value capturing analysis. So yeah, before we come into the value capturing analysis of something, first of all, we do the introduction to provide a little background and overview. What is this all about? Because not all people know what risk-taking is. Not all people understand what is the cryptocurrency security and in terms of risk-taking and stuff, right? So that we discuss how the protocol works, we discuss how token works, and what are use cases for the token. And after that, we're starting to make some value capturing analysis on top of all the previous knowledge that we collected to the thesis. So we identify original value. This is like the homework number one. So this piece was the homework number one, including some brief overview of the protocol that you also did on homework number one. So you identify origins of value based on the token functions and use cases. So for example, okay, you have future cash flows, you have conditional action, and you have some risks. Okay, do you have some access? No. Do you have some governance? For example, no. Do you have value transfer? Of course, token theoretically can be transferred, but it is not the main purpose, and token wouldn't gain significant value from value transfer because it's not the main purpose of the token. Nobody transfers value in these tokens, right? So, okay, you identified several origins of value. After that, you identify the value capturing mechanisms. Basically, you need to understand what depends on what, like it was done in the presentation. So I possibly will even add something something from our previous presentation as a reference here as well. So just give me 1 second. You can do such little, graphs just to understand the interrelations, what depends on what, for example. And if like a good outcome here is to do something like this, is to do the graph structure with all the origins of value, with all the mechanisms that go into the token. Also, I think the value capturing implementations patterns will be also a good plus to the submission. I didn't add them here because it requires some understanding of solidity probably, or knowing some reference projects. So it means that possibly it's a little bit more advanced, and I cannot require this, but I'm asking if you're interested. Because if it is a brand new BCIP, it requires a lot of technical knowledge to make some descriptions how it really works. So I expect something like BNB, so unified origins of value capturing mechanisms, and the graph approach. You use the graph approach to see the interrelations of what depends on what and how all of this works together. You can also do something like this for your understanding. So this is the fourth section. The fifth section is valuation approaches. For token, it's just an approach. It's just an idea. So you don't need to make to build a valuation. If you want, and if you're really interested, I can supervise you on that. And yeah, you can try to do it, and it will be also very good for your experience, and you will get additional skills basically in token analysis if you will do that. But anyway, it's just an idea list, I think. So if you have a value transfer, you can measure it using a Fisher's equation. Yeah, you can use some references from VC or academic literature, because there are some papers on how to value tokens. I mean, just for ideas, you don't need to build it like from scratch. So if you are talking about the value transfer, there is a Fisher equation for making some assumptions on the value transfer. And if you will ever try to calculate the value transfer, like the value of token based on the Fisher's equation, it's this. You will find out that you need a really big turnout in the system to provide some value to a token. If it's just a pure value transfer token, so only like Bitcoin or some similar ecosystems can get real value from the value transfer. So the next is future cash flow. So future cash flow is the most easiest original value to value. So because you can make a just discounted cash flow analysis. For example, if you are exploring the token that is working in mainnet for years, you can just see the on-chain data for all these fees collected, and in 99% of cases, these dashboards are built on Dune and open source, so you can just find it. And yeah, you don't need to really build it yourself, and you don't need to. So for the governance, it's much more complicated. So you need to see if there are some bribes or any monetary representation of governance, or how you can sell your votes, or like make some monetization of the governance power. So the discount rate, I think, really very big. It depends on the stage of the project, I think. So, but for the like early stage projects, it can be, I think, even like 60, 80%. It's big. So to be honest, the value in crypto startups through the discounted cash flow, it's on the early stages very complicated, because the chance of success and starting collecting a lot of fees is really small. If it is like established projects, I think it can be 40 or 60%. So I did some discount cash flow analysis over last years, and my basic approach on that was to find some valuations of VCs for the similar projects in open source, like some maybe articles or some like spreadsheets or something else, or maybe some tweets. Find something that was done by someone like reputable in space. Some big VCs definitely like something reputable, right? And just see what discount rate they did and try to find the relevant, the relevant study for that. So it means that, for example, if they made an analysis of like the network, which is a mainnet, which has some users like a DP network, I don't like LivePeer, for example, or something else, and they used 40% discount rate, okay, you can also use such discount rate, for example, for the mainnet project that collecting some fees and has a similar user base, and say, okay, we decided to do 40% because there is a reference for the like multi-coin capital and for some other fund. So I think this is the best approach, to be honest, because I also had some discussions with some analysts, even with some conservative, like analysts from the Web2 industry and startups industry. And to be honest, they all like in private, they say, okay, we can put any discount rate. We can make 50, 60%. It depends on what numbers we want to get at the end. What is the executive order for this? So you understand how the valuation works on the early stages. It's very subjective. Sometimes you can have a technology that worth billions, and sometimes you have established business that would worth nothing. So yeah, for the access, the question is how to measure access. It's not easy to measure. So for NFTs, possibly it could be just, if the NFT provides an access, it could be just a floor price, like some average floor price for 3 months, for example. So how much the market paid to get this NFT that provide this access, so how much this access was valued by the market. Like just take some time period to avoid spikes and some hype. Just of course, it's also subjective, but we can think about this in this way, I think. So for representation, we don't need to have evaluation, since the representation represents value of other asset that possibly has some proper valuation. But at least we can just account its market price if it's some early liquid asset. For example, if staked ETH is representing ETH, it means that basically it's almost ETH with some risks, with some protocol level risks, right? So staked Ethereum possibly have some protocol level risk of LiDAR finance, that if the LiDAR finance for some reason will be hacked or wrecked, we will get nothing. But at the same time, how to make assumption of probability of such event if the LiDAR finance was never hacked and maybe no one liquid staking project, the big liquid staking project was hacked ever. Nobody knows, to be honest, because it's very low probability. So there's not enough statistic for that. So it depends on case by case. I think it should be discussed. And as I said before, there is no clear methodology or standards for such valuations so far. So hedonic value, I think it's also market price only. Market price, or if we will like dig deeper into the hedonic value, I think it could be some dependence of the market price of an NFT on open market, and maybe some size of the community and the amount of mentions and stuff. So for example, there are 1 million mentions per month about the CryptoPunk, but if there is 100K mentions only in the bear market, you can make some correlation how the asset changed in price. But of course, this is something, really dark forest. I'm just discussing it, but I not expect that you will do it. Just some ideas. So about the risk exposure, there can be some ideas how to measure risk or how much it could cost. For example, if you stake tokens and you can lose 20% of tokens in case of slashing event. So and if this network is working for years, you can get some statistics from on-chain data and say, okay, if you're running a node, your probability to be slashed is like 1% per year. So yeah, you can just take into account that there is 1% chance that you will lose 20% of tokens per year. So you need to see, okay, would your fees and other, rewards and cash flows like overweigh these possible like lose or not. And for the conditional action, it is much more easier because you can make a price of this of the cost of the action. For example, if you need to run a node, you know how much the server costs. For example, you need to run a DigitalOcean server, $100 per month. Okay, so yeah, this $100 is your cost of making this conditional action, for example. Or you need to run some complicated Solana node that costs you, I don't know, $500 per month because it requires a lot of SSD hard drive and very, a lot of computer power, so you can make assessment of this in this way. The sixth point is conclusion, and the seventh is references. So some white papers, maybe even some tweets, if you have some tweets about the token that describing some interesting use cases or making. Sometimes you can find the tweets that describing some on-chain data for some token or something like that. So there can be a lot of, so it's not like an academic paper where you can use only academic sources, you can use tweets and stuff, any social validation. Yeah, so and now, so this is the basic template. So let's start to discuss your ideas. So what you plan to build, or as a final thesis, what are your ideas? Maybe you need some suggestions or something from me. And also it's important if there are some people who don't know like what they want to use as a topic for the final thesis. So if you don't know, we can discuss it also. So let's start. Any questions? Or maybe we can do a little round of like final thesis introduction. So maybe you can start from Jan and go to Anath, to Raj, to Ark, and you will just like say like 30 seconds little pitch what your final thesis will be about.
All right. You were talking to me, right, Vasily?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, to be very honest, this is the first time I'm logging in because I kept missing yours. So I'm still I'm not totally clear on my thesis yet. I do want to do something though about related to carbon credits.
Okay.
How to build it, and especially related to emission. So I might need your help in that. That's why also my question is how much information you need to put on paper. And I just put on also another question, which was like, it's very important indeed to relate to the costs, what you say when you run a node, et cetera, et cetera. Do you also have tips where to find that information? Because I've been looking for that information. It's not very easy to find it. And it's also not very, it really depends so much which protocol you're going to use, but each protocol can be very different depending on your purpose. And maybe your purpose is not even the right one for the right protocol.
Yeah, I think that the main approach to understand the cost of running a node, if there is some protocol with a node, it means that there are some node runners, right? So you can ask them. I mean, maybe asking Twitter, so hello, I want to run a node, but what configuration I need, how much it costs. Nobody forces you to run a node, right? You can just ask in the Twitter, or you can go to Discord and ask, hello guys, I want to run a node, but I don't understand what are the requirements for the server. So could you share some plan that you're using typically for the node and something like that? I think it's the best option.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so the carbon credits is interesting. So if you discuss about the carbon credit, I think it's just representation of real carbon credits, right? Because you want to make a tokenized version of them. Yeah, so it's just a representation, or maybe and you can use it as like some future like delayed carbon credits, so you can buy them, right, and wait for some future and use them in some dedicated future when you need them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Redeem.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a good idea, quite a simple one, I think. But yeah, anyway, so I think it's good to start from something. So I will be happy to read your thesis about the carbon credits.
Okay, so, very good.
Yeah, because for me as a token engineer, it looks really easy. But anyway, so I think
for me the interesting thing is to translate the data into a token, which has a kind of standardization, because if you talk about a carbon credit, it's kind of a global thing, but each product is so different. So there's been a lot of data disturbances, so to speak. So it's more, it looks simple, but it's actually much more complicated.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So yeah, let's move to the next student. So Ananth, are you able to speak and share what your ideas or thesis are?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm still behind on my homeworks because I did get started on both of them, and I hope the thesis could be a continuation of that. So I'm interested in understanding value capturing mechanisms for DeFi protocols, like what constitutes to like total value locked in a protocol. So I'm looking at Compound and Aave and Maker, and I started working on all of them. I didn't get to a good stage where I could submit my homework, but that's what I'm hoping to do for the final thesis, to like pick one of them for the thesis. But that's
I suggest you to pick up Maker, because first of all, Maker has some real data to analyze. Second, there are several discount cash flow analysis of Maker online that you can find. So
right.
this is really a good system with the governance and indirect dividends, as I mentioned in previous sessions. So yeah, Maker, I even there was a day when I made a big DCF for Maker. It was 4 years or 5 years ago, maybe. I just was curious about Maker, and I really did something like this thesis, but for Maker, and with a really deep dive into the DCF on Maker with on-chain data analysis. It was really super insightful. So I think that over these years there are much more data. So yeah, I think this can be really something big for for your future understanding.
Yeah, you convinced me, because Maker does have like a really good dashboard on their protocol expenses and their governance and so on and so forth. So it's quite detailed. So maybe I'll just focus on one, and that could be.
Yeah, but you need to know that the protocol expenses for Maker, they doesn't change, or they doesn't affect the value capturing for a token.
No, not at all. No. I was talking more in the sense of like how their governance process works and how they sort of allocate different resources, and because Maker is the token that allows them to have the governance rights over the protocol, right? So that's why I was in what they're using the governance tokens for, not necessarily for value capturing per se.
Yeah, I suggest you to pick up Maker because the compound is not interesting at all, because it's just a governance, so you wouldn't learn anything new from it. The Aave is interesting because it has two pieces. Besides the governance, they have a safety model, which is even mentioned in the table. So I made a special element for them because they introduced this concept of like bullet insurance, as I named it. But the Maker, I think, is definitely the most interesting one.
Okay, I'll focus on that. That'll be my.
Okay, I will be happy to assist you if you need some help from my side.
I would appreciate that too. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Arash. Okay, so if you can speak, you can just write that you can speak. But anyway, yeah, let's speak about your thesis a little bit later when you will be able. So, Ark, could you share some information about your thesis?
Sure. Still currently brainstorming, but looking at the decentralized physical infrastructure category, so DePIN. No, there's a few. There's a cache network, which I believe it's hosting. There's also Helium, and there's some of the AI projects that look pretty interesting too, such as BitTensor. So still currently looking around, but I think that's the category that my partner and I will focus on.
Yeah, I think the Helium is very interesting because it's a mint and burn, and it was it also perfectly lays to the value capturing this classification framework they created, but it's a really exotic value capturing implementation pattern. So from the economic point of view, it decomposes to the I will say known mechanisms that are in the table, but it's really interesting. Helium is very interesting. BitTensor is very interesting because the BitTensor looks like the Polkadot. I mean, from economic point of view only, I'm not talking about the tech. For the Polkadot, there was an interesting valuation framework proposed a long time ago, maybe in 2019, about the airport and gates. if you will Google this article, it was very interesting and something super fresh at that time in token engineering. So, and the BitTensor also from some napkin analogy perspective looks like airport with gates, and yeah, so possibly for the BitTensor the Polkadot like evaluation reference can be used. Possibly, I don't know, but I need to dig into it. But if you will pick BitTensor, you can find this research on Polkadot and possibly get some inspiration and ideas from it. And of course, Helium is also very interesting there. So feel free to pick project that you want. But anyway, all mentioned projects are super interesting.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, so the next is CG. So could you share what you're thinking about in final thesis? Sorry? Yes, CG, we cannot hear anything from you, unfortunately, but you can give it another try, I think. Okay, so if you aren't able to speak now, so we can do it a little bit later. So the Tiago, could you share what you plan to work on? Yeah, so Tiago, the guys that will write. Yeah, Depin is good. So there are a lot of projects on Depin, so feel free to pick up whatever you want. And yeah. If you need some help, also ping me in Discord. I will help you. Yeah, what besides the Polkadot report you want to learn? For Depin, so basically Depin is the Depin projects, they're working on top of work token model, the majority of them. Sometimes they also have a governance, like a separate mechanism, generalized governance, and the work token provides cash flow. So I think any valuation on work tokens will be really good start for it, and also you can try just to Google Helium, because Helium and its mint and burn model, if I'm not wrong, it was widely explored also in mediums, in some tweets and stuff. So if you want to learn about Depin, I think that you need to learn about work tokens and valuation of some work tokens. So what you can do, you can pick up like 5 or 10 Depin networks. I mean, the older are they, the more chances you will find some. And just Google the valuation of Helium, the valuation of BitTensor, because what is good on the market that VCs, the big VCs, they often publish a thesis on their investments, right? Why they invested in what, and such reports, they're providing a lot of information for us, for token engineers, that we can see how the VCs think, what they why they invest, what approaches to value, possible future value of this token they use, and why. So I think that you just need to pick up 5 or 10 Depin projects and just make a simple Google search on them, try to find some VC thesis or valuation, and you will find some. A16Z publish a lot, Paradigm publish a lot, Multicoin publish some, CoinFund publish some. CoinFund, they invested in LivePeer. CoinFund invested in, I think, in Helium as well, because it's Solana-based project, and they invest a lot in Solana ecosystem. Yeah. So what you can do, you can go to the Crunchbase, for example. You can but the majority of projects, the big projects, they do a public like announcements in some CoinDesk or Cointelegraph or some big media outlets. So you can just Google, I don't know, like helium report. Yes, helium along with our friends on Multicoin Capital. Yeah, this was not so insightful, unfortunately. But you can find, yeah, on the Multicoin website, you can find something. So yeah, it's not so easy, of course, to find some particular, valuation, but you can at least try it. Yeah. If you will find anything, I can help you. So yeah, this is the basic idea. What you can do, because any big projects is backed by some big VCs, and big VCs, they, yeah, CG, please. CG, yeah, you please talk. I can't hear you. DeFi ID projects, you mean this like decentralized identity? So to be honest, I'm not so expert in the field of decentralized identity. So what do you want? You want to find a project? I even don't know. So I think that possibly the biggest decentralized identity project could be Gitcoin, because Gitcoin built a really serious and solid, I can say, solid system for protecting from CBILs, from some abusers of Gitcoin. So, and yeah, this is a not a basic attention token. I think so. Gitcoin, they created a number of filters, like a passport, like it called a Gitcoin passport, that checks your wallet and sees, okay, you participated in this protocol, you participated in that protocol, you have a LinkedIn, you have Twitter, you have you donated to Gitcoin some long time ago or something like that. So they check out your on-chain and off-chain activities, like a basic ones that everybody can have. And yeah, and using these factors, they can prove that you are not just a bot, because it's quite complicated to forge these 12 or the number of factors that they use. So the Gitcoin, so yeah, possibly, but the Gitcoin is just a governance token. I think from the perspective of value capturing analysis is not so interesting. I even used it before in my lectures that Gitcoin is a useless governance token. So as they mentioned it, so maybe something changed so far. But anyway, you can analyze the governance, learn about the GTC. So yeah, let's see what they. It's a DAO. Learn about the GTC utility. So let's see. Gitcoin passport, governance token, DAO presence and discussions. Yeah, so this GTC token is somehow used for identity verification. I don't know why, because I'm reading this first time with you. But anyway, yeah, so it requires some time, of course, to really understand how it works. Yeah, the GTC curation, it's interesting. maybe it's some decoration promotion of grants, so I think it's interesting. Maybe there is also some staking for something. Yeah, so if you're interested in this, you can analyze GTC possibly. It can be really interesting. You know, besides such simple functions, often there is very interesting mechanics, so why not? Basic attention token can be used for thesis, but I think that, yeah, the main problem of basic attention token that it's just a pure value transfer token. So, but you can try to build evaluation or at least find something for the evaluation of this. For this basic attention token, why not? They even put the evaluation approach in the white paper in 2017 when I read first time the basic attention token white paper. It was, I think, in June 2017 or in May maybe. I even find a special section in the white paper of basic attention token regarding the Fisher's equation and like measuring tokens velocity and stuff. But what is good piece of news here that the evaluation of value transfer tokens is really well researched. So there are I have some academic articles read before on this, and there are a lot of posts trying to value Bitcoin, try to value Ethereum, try to value some other tokens. I think you can find evaluation of basic attention token as well on the internet. So yeah, you can get you know it done and even make a comparison of these evaluations, how different authors value the basic attention token using different presumptions or different ideas behind. Why not? It's also interesting. Okay, so let's move forward. So who else? We have a Victor. So could you share, please,
Yes.
what you plan to
Yes.
work on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. I can hear you. Yeah.
Hello?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Now here. Sorry. Yeah, basically, I think I'm just gonna keep on focusing on what I've been writing about in the last two homeworks, which is the Ethica protocol, because mainly well, for everybody who doesn't know it, it's like a refi protocol, and they're basically like a crowdfunding platform where they provide loans to small coffee farmers. And I got interested in a little bit looking a little in more detail into the structure for how they actually, like, it's a bit more complex than I thought originally, because I think also in the introduction that you read, I basically described it as there are basically a Web3 community that generates some kind of crowd collateral, and that is kind of the collateral for the loans. But there seems to be also like two other, they call them entities, or two other kind of stakeholders, and one would be somehow like a community leader that puts in 20% of the collateral, and another one is the validator that somehow I think somehow has to kind of keep the community leader in check and controls that one. And so it's a bit more complex, and I like the structure. So I don't know, my question to you would be actually at this point, I don't want to go too much into detail, but if you think that this might, interest you or be of interest in general for this exercise, then I'll just focus on this.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So far I know the EthiHub for a long time because we worked with Raul.
Okay.
In 2020, we worked together with Raul and Angela from tokenized community, of course, Angela. So we worked on the grant from Balancer protocol. So in that days, I learned a lot about EthiHub, and I even have a coffee in my house from EthiHub. I mean, like a special bag of coffee that was gifted to me at the merge. So I know a little bit about the EthiHub, but of course, I don't know all these details about the token, like how token works and stuff. So yeah, if you will make a thesis on that and you will provide a good understanding and description, it will be really good, and maybe you will finally understand why the token is struggling. I mean, I'm not postulating the token is struggling. I mean, maybe if there are some problems, you will find them. So this would be a good.
I mean, it's also kind of more focusing on the long-term sustainability of such a project, because I think it's kind of like the main key finding should be to kind of understand why is there not, why are there not many more of these projects? And there must be some kind of challenge that is very difficult in terms of value capturing mechanisms, and how to then actually also keep this in the long term sustainable.
Yeah, I think the main problem of such projects is that the risk is high and reward is not high. So the just from economic point of view is not interested for the crypto audience, because why you need to provide loans for 20% or like 10% if you can get like access in crypto, you can make much more money on some other things, right? Taping in some coins, in some meme coins, I don't know, in some. Even in DeFi, you can get 10% APR on USDT without default risks, without very low protocol risks. So,
Agreed. But I want to focus. Sorry to interrupt you, but I would like to focus a little bit more on the question, because there's just a limited amount of time that I can dedicate to this, and I wanted to kind of see in terms of value capturing, like, would it be somehow a valuable thesis to say that it's a good alternative in a bear market where there's 8-10x is not really an option usually, to kind of like put something into something stable that has as long as there's no drought or something that really destroys the coffee farming activity as such, but there is some kind of very tangible asset behind this, and that might be a great alternative. And then, and in that line, I wanted to ask you just very quickly to wrap up. Would it make sense to you, or do you think it's a good idea in case, just to kind of present some concepts to kind of just either make some assumptions for data sets, or because I just don't think that for the scope also of the thesis, I don't know what you have in mind, but it's going to explode in terms of pages if I really kind of dig deeper into all the projects and try to. So I was just going to kind of create a case and just put in some data that makes sense just to illustrate the point.
Of course, it's even much more interesting. Of course, it's even much more interesting. What I presented here is just a simplified version. If you have a data, if you know your project well, if you know how to get Dune analytics contracts, if you know how to do all of this and you want to make it much more richer than I expect, I mean, in the basic version, it will be really good. So I will be only happy if you will add some data and show that you understand how to get data, how to make analysis, how to provide something. So please do it. So there is no cap. If you have, so first of all, I will make analysis of all these theses, not on the call, right? So if you have 20 pages, okay, I can read 20 pages, but just a little, suggestion to make it really, not add a lot of water there, right? So try to write on topic. If you have some tables or if you have some data, it's really good. Please do it. So
perfect.
No cap. Anyway, there will be, I think, maximum 10 theses, so I will be able to review them. I will have time for that. Why not? Okay. Any questions, or we can move to some other students regarding the thesis? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I think your thesis will be about, I mean, as I see it, not as you think, as I see it. If do this, like real world loans transfer to crypto, are they economically viable in crypto market on different stages or not? I mean, what this will be an answer what I plan to get from your thesis. I mean, I will read it and see what the numbers and stuff, because even if we are working in just like a crypto world, it doesn't deny or doesn't switch off the rules of economics, right? So the economy is number one all the time. All the tokens and stuff is just based on top of some economic principles. So yeah, if just the basic economy is not rational, or it's not profitable at all for attract enough capital, and it wouldn't work. So
yeah, if you don't mind, I don't want to. I've already taken a lot of time, but if we can go through everyone, and if you don't mind, in the end, if we have some time, I would still have a question.
Okay. Okay, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what next? Who is next? Zach Zhukovsky, maybe you want to add something on your thesis.
Yeah, so I still haven't. Hey, everybody, and yeah, thanks, Vasily, for your presentation. I haven't decided on a thesis yet, but I'm doing a lot of research right now on the ideal percentages for circulating supply being staked in DPIN projects. And how to identify what percentage you should target through different types of staking programs like governance or other types of like device staking. So I'm doing a lot of research on that right now. That's like my main focus.
I think it's very good. I think it's a very good topic because your staking in some protocols are basically reflecting some value capturing mechanism anyway, right? It can be work token consensus or possibly something else. And the thing is that you can say, okay, if in some project this value capturing mechanism is used, what is the optimal staking ratio for a project, taking into account some goals that you have. Even if a lot of tokens staked, you anyway need some tokens for liquidity, right? So you cannot just make 100% of supply staked. It's not possible and not rational at all, I think. You need also to have some possibly rewards and stuff. So yeah.
I think one of the keys is to identify the amount of tokens that are in demand by the network, by people actually looking to use those tokens to do things like buy data or stake them to devices. And once you can identify like what percentage of tokens you expect to be needed over the next 3 months or so, then you can better identify what type of percentage rewards you can give to the governance stakers, and also how many tokens should be required to be staked to access certain features. But it all starts with identifying the amount of tokens demanded by the network.
This is very interesting. Yeah. For all the the work tokens and consensus tokens, the main question is, okay, what is the minimum requirement for the node? What is the maximum amount of tokens that you can stake? For example, like 32 ETH that was set up initially in proof of stake in Ethereum, how they got to this number. So in all staking, mechanics is very important to understand, okay, where the numbers come from for this minimal stake, maximal stake, and some dependence of something on the stake. For example, the bigger the stake is, the more probability of getting work or of getting some job you get, or something like that. So it depends, okay, how these dependence work, or maybe the algorithmical pricing. So for some agent that has more token staked, he has a more payment or more fees collected because of his bigger stake. He has a bigger responsibility because he can be slashed for the stake. So all these questions are really important, and if you can back them by some data or some calculations, it's very interesting to get these. So you can just pick some network or some type of protocol, the value capturing mechanism, identify the value capturing mechanism, and say, okay, after that, what is the optimal, like minimal stake or maximal stake, or dependence of there's some fees collected by the worker on depending on his stake, based on on this value capturing mechanism. So this is a very impressive topic for the final thesis. So if you have an idea, please do it. So I will be happy to review such kind of work. So okay, the Muhammad.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, let's move the next student.
1 minute until we get started.
Sorry? Yeah, so for Muhammad, could you please elaborate on the topic, what you plan to do for the final thesis?
So we have everyone here. Let me kick off the recording.
I'm asking the Muhammad Hamid He's also on the call, so I want to ask him. Okay. He's not there, possibly. Yeah, so anyone, do you have some other questions or you want to share something regarding the final thesis? Or not? Okay. So
I think there's some question in the chat.
yeah, please, please. You wanted to ask some questions?
No, I think there are some questions in the chat more directed towards.
No, nothing new here. So
I thought there was a slide, like I think Thiago asked how many pages or slides.
I already responded.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
If you want to make more slides, more pages, because you add some data and you just do something valuable additions there, why not? So I'm not limiting your desire for doing some token engineering work. Why not? You can do it and get more practice on that. If you want to add data, please add data. If you want to do something else, please do something else. So yeah, you wanted to ask some questions, please.
Yeah. So basically, it was just kind of like a comment to your comment, because you said that particularly with these specific real-world assets, there's a lot of risk in comparison to the ROI that you get for it. And so I just wanted to, and then I said that in that particular case, like I'm kind of interested in understanding how this looks like in a different market situation, like when everything is going down and people are looking for safety somewhere. And one example, it doesn't necessarily have to be this complex as small coffee farmers, but one example could also be I don't know, Pax Gold or some other kind of real world assets, I guess. And so I just wanted to know, would you in that case for ethics, would you change your view in that market scenario, or would you still say this is the risk is absolutely outweighing the return of investment in that scenario?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say that Paxos Gold doesn't provide you any APR, as far as I know. Of course, you have some reality, for example, the treasury bonds on chain. I mean, the representation of treasury bonds yield in the reality project. So yes, but regarding the ethics, I can provide some, like opinion on that if I will see the numbers. Now I don't know the numbers. I'm just sharing my, like preliminary thoughts that I think that possibly there is a bigger than the earning potential from this, but I don't have a particular number, so I'm not providing some real like deep opinion. I'm just thinking about that because so in my token engineering experience, I saw so many times all these real world assets like much earlier that it became a trend and a new section of CoinMarketCap, right? So it was in 2017, it was 2018, it was 2020, 2021. Every cycle, the real world assets, people try to build projects in real world assets. They try to tokenize real estate. They try to tokenize everything. They try to do a lot of stuff around that. But the main problem of all these assets is that the yield that they provide are much less than yield in crypto. So the thing is that, for example, I'm not talking about the coffee because I'm not expert in coffee. And by the way, coffee in EthiHub is good, really good. So I got a package of the coffee and I enjoyed it so much. So okay. I can say that at least I captured some value from EthiHub using a coffee. So it's true, yeah. So, but for example, for the real estate, I mean, talking about the real estate, people say, okay, we will tokenize real estate in Dubai, we will tokenize real estate in some city where it is possible to do according to the regulation. We will sell the shares of these apartments and we'll share the some yield from the rent of these apartments out to these token holders. And in theory, it looks really well. Wow, we will tokenize the apartments. But first of all, I think you don't want to own the apartment in like if 1,000 people will own the apartment, because if you want to sell this apartment to some other entity, you need to collect all the shares, all the tokens from all these people to sell this apartment, right? It's not possible if the 1,000, even not pseudo-anonymous, even just like full KYC people, you need to find them, you need to buy back these tokens, and it should be like a binary room in a big, apartment with a lot of rooms. So if you buy in a single room, it's like you can buy all the rooms, but the last room, the owner of the last room will sell this room at much higher price, because if you will get this last room, you will collect the whole apartment, right? So it's first complicated problem. Second problem is that the yield from real estate, the real estate cannot provide you 30%, 50% yield. Even 10% is really like exotic on the good real estate markets. In Switzerland it's 2%, like maybe in the United States it's 5%. I mean, I don't know particular numbers, but I know that it's much less than 10. So, and it means that if someone will buy this tokenized real estate, this person should be not like a crypto guy, right? Because a crypto guy will invest his stable coins into some Earn Finance vaults and get 10%, or invest in Ethereum and get 3.5% in staking, but Ethereum has much more upside. So the problem is that the audience that buys real estate is in huge amounts is not crypto audience. For them it's much easier to buy the real estate as it. I mean, just to make an agreement and buy in a like old-fashioned way. And you will say, okay, you can buy real estate, but you need to buy some tokens, use some wallets, use some KYC use some. Oh my God, it's so complicated. So this is the problem. That the majority of tokenized products are not products for crypto audience. They're products for normal investors, like Web2 normies. And this Web2 normies, they can easily buy all these products using just a brokerage terminal. They can buy index funds for real estate. They can buy treasury bonds. They can buy any securities. They can buy all of this without crypto. They don't need crypto to buy this. So this was the main problem for real world assets that they saw. Besides a lot of regulation, uncertainty, and stuff that you need to do around them to make it work, and sometimes it costs so much that it's easier to do it without crypto. But for the coffee, possibly for the coffee, it's a separate case, because coffee is not a regulated product, first of all, which is good. So yeah, so the coffee is a little bit aside from real estate and from all this tokenization.
Okay, thank you.
Will you give feedback on the submission, or is the mission to submit only? Will this presentation paper to be shared? So first of all, we will have one more session at June 3rd, devoted to the like a hacking session, little session like this one, devoted to some thesis that you already will create. I mean, some preliminary drafts. Of course, will be not the final ones. So you can send your thesis for me before the next session, or you can ask some questions if you don't have thesis, like some drafted on hands. So yeah, so first of all, we will have one more session focused on this final thesis. The deadline, you need to see it. I need to see the deadline. It looks like it was June 6th for for the deadline. So you will have several days more to to finish your thesis and submit them. Or sorry, it was June 4th, I think, and June 6th will be the deadline for me to check it all out and like be sure that I reviewed all of this in a proper way with a necessary amount of attention and stuff. So the initial idea was that all the final thesis will be submitted to GitHub or to the Google Drive. So I personally want to make it to the GitHub just because just to have it there. So looks like it will be fully public. But if somebody what you need to submit for real, you need to submit. So for me, the thesis is the paper with according to the template that I shared with you. So if you want to make it in form of Google Slides, of course you can make it, of course. But I think that it's the best way is to write little article or little like document on that. With all so you don't need to make a lot of text. You can make it short if you want. I just shared how I will do it. I mean, all this, introduction and stuff. So I think that all the thesis will be fully public, of course. and I think it will be on the GitHub or in Google Drive, possibly. So I definitely want to make it on GitHub just to have some repository as a result of the course that can be shared with some other people from the community. That, hello guys, this is some repo with the final thesis of students. You can read some really interesting analysis of MakerDAO token on BitTensor or Ethica and stuff. Everything is there, because sharing the link for the Google Drive I think is not so solid. Yeah, so but you can share it personally with me before the final submission if you have some questions. So you don't need to share something raw that you don't want to show to the public, to all the people. You can, for example, just ping me in Discord, share it with me. I will maybe provide some some feedback or some suggestions, or maybe help you in some way. So my goal here is to get your final thesis done in a good way. I don't have a goal to get some incomplete thesis or something. For me, it's much more interesting to help you to invest some time into your work also and get a really good final thesis that can be show that, hello guys, these people, they got some knowledge from the course, they understand how it works, they provided a really solid final thesis. And I think it will be good for you, because you will also have some some work for your portfolio. You can publish it and make some content for you as a token engineer, sharing that you're not only graduated from the course, you also made some really valuable content. You dig deeper into the BitTensor, into the MakerDAO, or into something like that. Yeah, Fabi, thank you a lot for this, for the clarification of dates, because I can't find it in the chat. Yeah. So yeah, my deadline for reviews is June 6th, I think, right? So yeah. We don't have any other sessions planned besides the sessions on June. So the discussion is not the same as the presentation. Sorry, I don't understand. What do you mean? For me, my understanding of thesis is that you create a little paper. No, you don't have a presentation of your work. Why? Because you are all in different time zones, and it's, I think, not easy to collect all the students on one session. For someone, it will be 3 a.m. and so like presentations is complicated. I think, guys, you can write a paper, and this is much better for you and for me. You will have everything on paper, so you can review what you wrote. You wouldn't have any this problem. Some people are not really well in pitching, so why not? If you want to discuss this with me after the June 3rd, because on June 3rd we'll have the session for everybody who want to get some help, some answers, maybe some feedback before the submission. We'll have the session. We will discuss everything there. You can go through some thesis if you want, of course, to showcase your raw thesis to someone else. So why not? I think the learning from each other and from the mistakes of each other is good, because nobody expects that this will be some like Michelin star work, right? You're just learning, you're doing your some steps in token engineering. You will have some problems, and we will identify some things that can be improved in your thesis. I think it will be good for everybody to know that, for example, this value capturing mechanism works another way or something else. Why not? But it depends on you. I'm not forcing anybody to do this. But yeah, after the final submission, maybe if I will have time and you will have some real questions for your work, we can maybe have some additional call. Just, I mean, not included into this course, just like a free talk call and discuss the thesis, but I don't know when it can happen so far. Yeah, it's anyway, we have a June 3rd, the planned session where we can discuss everything. So, and anyway, I will do at least a written feedback for every submission that you will do. So I will make a review, what I'm thinking about that, and what is my personal opinion, and what I think is good, what I think can be improved. And also you will see my final thesis, so you can also read it and see, I mean, what I'm thinking is good final thesis. So guys, do we have anything else for discussion? Mentioning sources is very important. Yeah, there is a reference section, so I suggest you, of course, to have some references. If you was inspired by some, Polkadot valuation or some, please edit all of it. The more sources you have, the more solid is the work, I think, because nobody expected you to create like from scratch everything, right? It's the composability works this way that you need to that you can to take everything you need from open source. Why not? Do you think everybody creates everything from scratch? I think the only thing that was created from scratch in my work was the table and the origins of value capturing mechanisms created from scratch. But some ideas on valuation, I always checking out what other people do, what VCs do, what some researchers do, and thinking, okay, you have some valuation, how I can adapt this valuation to my understanding of value capturing mechanisms and all these structures. And I'm constantly picking ideas on valuation and trying to adopt them to my understanding of value capture. So it's a normal process. Will the template will be available to access via Notion? Of course, everything will be available. Of course, I will send this template to the Fabi, and hopefully she will help to deposit it there. Yeah, I think everything will be after the session, all the like takeaway, where is the template, all the dates. I think we also will remind you about the dates to not miss anything. Yeah, Fabi, thank you a lot. Thank you a lot. Yeah, so I think that's it for now. So from my side, you should expect the eigenlayer analysis and the session on June 3rd. And hopefully, since I need to share some, some thesis with you to have more inspiration and reference, what I think is good thesis. So I think I will do it up to June 3rd, my thesis, I mean, that I will share with you as as an example. So now you receive a template, and after that you will get the eigenlayer analysis from me. Yes, of course. And for me, it's also really important because I want to dig into eigen token for almost a month to really, not just read the white paper, but write something. And now is the proper moment to do it. So yeah. So let's move forward. Thank you for the attention. And I can say that all the topics that you submitted are very interesting, are really interesting. So it's not some generic ones. So you're digging into some problems, you're trying to value some things. And I think the carbon credits is also, it looks like a simple system, but it can be really interesting. How it's issued, what you can do with it. So what can be expected value for the carbon credits. But of course, since it's a representation, it all comes down to the off-chain asset anyway. But yeah. So please I suggest you to start work on your thesis, because it's not something that you can write in a couple of minutes, I think. So I don't know, do you graduated from some university or you have some PhD or something? I wrote a lot of works in my life, and including the PhD thesis and a lot of academic articles during my PhD and beyond. And so the best thing is just to sit, have a couple of hours of some like this, like some bullets, some raw text. Of course, it's not ready. I don't have all the links I can find afterwards. So just to get some structure, get some a really raw draft that contains all the ideas, and after that start to improving the pieces. Okay, I can write more on risk taking, what it is, how it works, maybe some reference to some tweets of some clever guys. After that, I can get more about the eigenlayer protocol, about about what is AVS, automatically validated services, some examples of AVS, for example, the economics of AVS, how much they need to pay for this security. So when you have so it's very complicated to start writing from the blank page, but if you have some structure, you can just, okay, add some origins of value, add some value capturing mechanism a little bit later, and slowly but surely you will do it, and you will find that it's not so complicated. For the valuation, maybe you need to spend one more hour just to make some search on valuation methodologies, because if eigen is intersubjective, as they define it. Intersubjective work token. Okay, let's think how this kind of work tokens can be valued, because it's not a as I understand, it's not a work token that is just like a, because the work tokens mainly they have some algorithmic policy for slashing, and in case of eigenlayer, the main invention is that it is not objective but subjective, so it doesn't have an algorithmic policy for slashing. It has some kind of like a social consensus around the outcome. So this is really interesting how to value this. So this is my future work for coming week, I think, for the next week. Yeah, so if you don't have any more questions, so thank you all for joining. Thank you for thinking about your thesis. So start to write. You can ping me in Discord if you have some questions, so I will go in touch. So our next milestone, we will be meeting at June 3rd with all the discussions on the questions and, you know, some maybe issues that I will help you to solve in writing your thesis. Yeah, so thank you all, guys. See you. Have a good evening or morning.
Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you, Fabi. Bye.